Hi everyone. Holger, I'm really excited to share the stage up here with you.
Hi everybody. I don't have a sizzle to show today. I cannot offer any Paddle Club tickets. I can get you in some free bags of rolls if you want, but that's all I got here. So. But I'm happy to join you on this stage.
Well, I'm happy you're here. I know, Holger, you're going to share a lot more about you personally, your career progression, as well as your role at King's Hawaiian. It's a brand that really is beloved amongst a lot of people in the United States and has carved out a really unique voice within the baked goods category. So it's really interesting to hear more about how you're maintaining that voice and engaging new users as well.
So first of all, it is like a very unique brand. My background is coming from a totally different industry. I started actually in entertainment, worked a lot for Mattel and Disney and Hasbro's of the world. Then moved over the last 8 years to Adidas, headquarters in Germany. And then beginning of the year, I started working for King's Hawaiian. Really, you would think a little bit of a departure, but actually it's not, because when you think of the consumer first and you're consumer obsessed and you start there, you have pretty much same challenges. The brand itself, King's Hawaiian, is really interesting because it's probably one of the most loved brands, I think, in the country. The Net Promoter Score, we have a 56 Net Promoter Score, is probably the best in this room, I would assume. Understanding a little bit, from my past, what typically brands, how potentially polarizing they can be. We are in the marketplace, 40,000 different outlets here. We have a 90% awareness. So we have a good place, 10 years of double-digit growth, really good place. However, this is something that we want to really drive much harder in the future, is really telling that brand story. Because that's really where I believe, in my past, where really it makes a difference. Really carving out brand purpose. What is this brand really, what does it stand for? Really being authentic. We've heard this over the last couple of days. Being honest, being sincere, and really giving that story and making sure consumers are really intrigued in that.
Excellent. And you mentioned throughout your career you've gone back to these basics. I know you started at Mattel, where you oversaw the Hot Wheels racing brands, including Formula One racing teams, teams like Ferrari, McLaren, Williams. How was that experience, working with those teams? And is there any insight you can give us to give us a little glimpse behind the scenes with them?
Yeah. First of all, coming back here to see all this coming to life in the U.S. is phenomenal. And this probably kind of aged me a little bit, 20 years ago when I was heading up the racing business for Mattel and working with the Ferraris and McLarens of the world. It was quite different. Really, I remember the times with Fox Sports back then, not ESPN, but Fox Sports, Undertone, and all sorts of different partners really trying to chime in and make this really interesting, unique. What's that magic behind F1 and this mad science behind it. And now, it's phenomenal, just seeing that coming to life. There was a really strong partnership back then with Ferrari, specifically Ferrari. Spent a lot of time down in Maranello working with the Ferrari team, and it was just so interesting to see all the way up to the president. Back then it was Luca Di Montezemolo, being involved in the creation, in the development of toy lines. Yes, he was a father back then, or became a father back then, so he was personally invested. But just being there in the plant, in the factory, understanding a little bit the culture there, and then really co-developing this together from the get-go. This whole toy line, I was just super interested to see how much dedication, how much passion, how much energy there is. And I think from a partnership perspective, that's what you need is this full commitment on both ends. So it's not a transaction, but it's built on personal relationships. And that's when it gets really deep and it becomes like really strong and powerful.
Well, moving from Mattel, you've had a pretty long and impressive career, as you mentioned, Hasbro, X Games, Adidas, I'll use the American pronunciation on that one. And while you were at Adidas, you also worked very closely with FIFA. Obviously, Adidas is a global FIFA sponsorship, or has a global sponsor of FIFA. How did you work with athletes at that point, and how did that compare to what you did with Mattel?
Yeah, I mean, the partnership, most of you probably know, partnership between Adidas and FIFA, it's been now coming up to 60 years. So it really started in 1970 when we started building those like World Cup balls. It was actually really cool to hear Romy yesterday talking about the connected ball, because literally my team actually was developing that ball for the past 5 years. So I can give you all the insights how it works and what it actually like opens up and fan experience and all sort of different things. But it's this and in this case also this consistency, making sure like over time obviously you want to push the boundaries, you want to still innovate while not being like complacent and start going back to like the same model and same formula. And FIFA is a machine, like for sure, over time. But we started pushing the boundaries, and the connected ball is like one of those really breakthrough, I would say, innovations. Was another one actually that's also maybe interesting to hear about is it's called the FIFA Gamer Boot. It's basically technology built into sock liners that you can put in anybody's shoe. That was built together, and this is like another thing. When you have multiple partners coming together, it just makes it more powerful. So in this case, it was FIFA, it was Adidas, it was Google, and it was Electronic Arts. So basically what happened was like collect data in that chip, you run around, you do like all sorts of kicks and runs and corners and whatnot, and it actually feeds back into, back then, the FIFA game. So you amp up your stats, and that's like where basically the convergence happens from the physical world into the digital world. So again, that's just an example of when you work together in those kind of partnerships, and everybody has the same agenda and wants to really like create a breakthrough innovation. That's what happens.
That's amazing, and it really enhances the game for the consumer. So you worked on several global brands, working on international sports sponsorships, and now you're with Kings Hawaiian. Kind of a little bit of a departure, like you mentioned earlier. But could you walk us through what happened there? Like, did they reach out to you? Was sports something that was interesting to them?
Yeah, so let's put it that way. There was a pulling going on for a long time, and there was also a personal relationship. So full disclosure. But it was interesting for me to see not only do we have multiple different partnerships across soccer, football, racing, looking into baseball. So really multiple like different partners. But for me, is that the starting point was how it connects back is understanding how sports connects people, and then also how food connects people. When you bring actually those two pieces together, we talked about yesterday the intersection of sports and fashion, lifestyle, music, and so forth. Food is the other intersection. So when you think about those moments, like even last night, when food, like when you add food to all of this, it just makes moments better. Like it elevates all this, like the passion, the energy, all the craziness going on. But we're looking at ourselves almost like as we are in the moment making business, making good moments great, and really delivering basically on good times, because good times are created together, and that's where the intersection happens for me.
Well, and it's interesting because all of the work that you do in sports venues. So that's something I think not a lot of people really understand, how integrated you are in the moment at the racetracks and at the stadium. Could you explain a little bit more about how you're engaging with fans while they're on site?
Yeah, so one thing for me was, when I started, also really important is, while we have a fantastic distribution and great partners like around the country, and now into other countries as well, but I just wanted to have this really like direct one-to-one relationship with our consumer. So that's why we started building basically King's Hawaiian grills in different stadiums, different race activations around the country, and it's been doing so phenomenal. When you go to an LAFC game or a Dodgers game or the Yankees or the Red Sox, and you see the King's Hawaiian grill and people lining up like crazy, and because the product, the food is really good, but the vibe is the right vibe, and showcases aloha spirit, and it's just a fun time. And when you see this happening and all the food over, this is how we also get consumers really into the brand, is it's tasting it, really having the real exposure. So it's less of maybe the typical traditional sponsorship approach of a lot of awareness and all that, because that's not really what we need. We need trial. We need all the way down to the funnel.
Well, and even beyond that, you obviously you're not currently a Formula One sponsor. Typically, you're more of a domestic brand. You mentioned you're starting to expand a bit. Formula One's more of an international platform. They're starting to come to the States. Might be some synergy there in the future, but you are a big NASCAR sponsor. The sponsorship was renewed earlier this year and expanded. You sponsor Brad Keselowski, as well as the number 6 car, and also you're sponsoring, I believe it's up to 9 different races throughout the season. What excited you about NASCAR?
NASCAR is when you go to those NASCAR weekends and race events, and it is drawing 350,000 people over the 3 days. So clearly it has massive appeal. I am intrigued by F1 for sure. This is probably closer to my heart, where I come from, in full disclosure. But it's phenomenal to work actually with NASCAR, with the NASCAR organization, and then Brad in particular. The Roush team, I've never, in my 20 years of working with athletes and talents, the dedication and the way that personal relationship that was built is phenomenal. And I can give you maybe one example. At the Atlanta race, it was the qualifying on Saturday. So Brad did his qualifying, all fine. And the entire crew actually came. We have a plant in Atlanta, in Georgia. Came to our plant. They did a little tour. We shot a lot of social content around it, and then we spent dinner at night. And all the way to literally him getting into the car the next day, he spent with us explaining what kind of a race strategy he's going to go after. And it was for me phenomenal just to see how much time he actually wants to spend with us, because he became basically part of our Ohana, and that's how we treat. That's how we really bring our athletes and talents into our company all the way, and then he switches. He flips the switch and gets into the car and races like crazy for the next 3 hours, and his life at stake. So it was just an unbelievable. I've never seen this before. This would not happen with a Messi or any of the athletes I worked before. So
It seems to you seem to have a kind of through line or something common in working with these the drivers from Formula One with Mattel, but also here with King's Hawaiian with Brad, as well as the other athletes you're working with. Obviously, this year you released the spot with the Manning brothers, Slider Sunday. I'm sure everyone here has seen it, but it's a great spot. Really I'm playing on that family time and a little bit of a rivalry, staying true to that. But what is the kind of overall strategy when you're talking to athletes, you're recruiting athletes, and you sign them on?
Yeah, I think this is building on what I said on with Brad's example is, and the Mannings maybe even another level. Just the way we even set it up and started the discussion conversation. It actually started already having some interaction, some collaboration with Eli, a couple of years ago, where we just supported their philanthropy projects. We just said it's the right thing. It's helping kids and fighting cancer. It's the right thing, because that's a little bit. It's one of our values is doing the right thing. No matter what it costs. No matter what it takes, if it's going the extra mile. But it's this, you can apply strategic filters, you can apply the values, and all day long. At the end, it really comes down to is there real chemistry between, because then it works. I've seen it the other way. So in this case, Manning brothers came over to the plant a couple of weeks ago. They met with the family. So King's Hawaiian is family owned. Fantastic story, by the way, like making it from the Big Island to Honolulu to LA national, and then now going international. It's just phenomenal to see. Probably like the most humble family I've ever seen. But you know, for the Manning brothers, meeting basically all 3 generations of the family, sitting down with them, and just like exploring opportunities, thinking about different ways, and sharing ideas. It was phenomenal. And none of that, by the way, was written in the contract. You know, it was like just voluntarily by themselves, because they were intrigued, they were interested. They are family people. They sometimes act like little boys. I've seen them like in that capacity, and that's also, by the way, like creates really cool behind the scenes and fun footage.
It's amazing to see that chemistry in a lot of the Manning brothers, but also your other athletes you sponsor. Are there any other people that you have an eye on, or any other sports you're looking to expand into?
I mean, I'm super excited. I'll tell you a few different sports like soccer, football, global football. Super excited about that. We all know the World Cup is coming, but having written a white paper on soccer in North America for the next few years, if only half of that comes true, I would say that's going to be a game changer. Football, American football, definitely is right, the money making machine, but also just a phenomenal business and a phenomenal entity. Racing, we're still going to continue. I would say F1, I'm super intrigued. Would love to get involved more with F1, particularly when we look at internationally. That's also something that in the past really worked well, like particularly, for instance, the Hot Wheels brand. And then we are launching a new snacking line next year. So heard that and we've been testing this pretty like crazy. Could allude or could link back to e-gaming because apparently like that's kind of like what they're really looking for and that type of snack. So I'm looking forward to that. So those are probably like the different types of sports we're looking at.
So it sounds like you've got your sights set on a lot of growth. You've mentioned a few times that you are looking to expand internationally. What are your near-term priority markets, and with this sports approach also working those markets?
Yeah, a good example is this fall actually right now. We're going big into Canada. So the Maple Leafs, I think it's not official yet, but we're going to sign the papers in the next couple of days. We're going to partner up with the Maple Leafs. We're going to create a Super Bowl weekend in Toronto. We got to be here as well in Vegas. But that connection, football, hockey, and then also the Toronto Raptors, in particular in Toronto, that's a great starting point because we are a really preferred fan food item, right? So the connection, sports, and fandom in us is a very direct and very intuitive link.
Well, it's amazing to hear the progression and what you're working on. We'd love to open it up for any questions if anyone would like to ask anything, Holger.
Jason Edelman from Brand Innovators. Thank you both for a great panel. A little bit of a departure from the topic. You actually took 3 of my questions, Joe. I wanted to see if you wanted to talk a little bit about the unfortunate circumstances of Maui and how you guys responded, because I know that it was a busy time, and I know you wanted to get involved with the community. If that's anything you want to share.
Yeah, this obviously is very close to our heart. You know, and as a company, we don't really talk about how we support and how much money we donate to different entities. That's something also speaks, or it goes back to the humbleness of the owner, of the family. So we supported several organizations because we have the direct link basically to Maui, and it was something that we took probably as a company really by heart, and it was a very emotional time for us, and still is. What we want to do though is also helping, and this is like we we are extremely connected with not only Maui but Hawaii in general. We are helping business leaders over there. I mean, I'm even flying back and forth and giving some marketing, classes and marketing speeches over there. But we are extremely connected in that space. So we know where probably help is needed. And yeah, that was a big initiative on our end. Like I said, we are not typically talking about it much, even like the amounts and support. But it was very significant. And we also tapped into our network, our athletes, like Eli, for instance, who actually like really created a whole buzz around, donating for the victims and for Maui. So we always try to that 1 + 1 is equals 3. Like, how can we actually elevate each other and leverage in making this seem like a bigger push, bigger initiative.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Holger.
Thanks, everybody.